The voicemail came in at 7:42 on a Thursday morning. I know the exact time because I still have it saved on my phone. I have listened to it maybe 30 times since then. Not because I enjoy it, but because some part of me still cannot believe it happened. I was out back behind the house in Knoxville feeding the chickens I keep in the small coop. My son helped me build 3 summers ago. My phone buzzed in my jacket pocket. I did not recognize the number. Tennessee area code, but not local. I almost let it go to voicemail anyway. I am 63 years old and I have learned that calls from numbers I do not know are rarely anything good. I answered on the last ring. Mr. Decker? This is Dr. Anita Sohal calling from Vanderbilt University Medical Center. I'm reaching out regarding your son, Owen. He's been admitted to our cardiac unit. He gave us your number as his emergency contact. I set down the bag of feed. My son. 2 words I had not heard directed at me in 4 years. How serious is it? I asked. She said he was stable, but they were running tests. She said I should come as soon as I could. I was on I-40 East within 20 minutes. My name is Decker Hale. I am 63 years old. I spent 31 years working as an electrician in the Knoxville area, mostly commercial jobs, some industrial. I retired early because my knees gave out, and because I had money saved, and because there was nothing left in the city to hold me to a schedule anymore. I live alone on 4 acres outside of town. I grow tomatoes and keep chickens and fish in the creek on Saturday mornings, and try not to think too hard about how quiet the house gets at night. Before all of that, I was a husband and a father. I had a wife named Sylvia, and a son named Owen, and a daughter named June. And for a long time, that was everything. Then Sylvia decided it was not enough. The divorce was finalized in the spring of 2020. Worst possible timing, the whole world shutting down around us while my family was doing the same thing on a smaller scale. Sylvia had already moved out by February. By April, the papers were signed. By June, she had taken the kids to her mother's place in Chattanooga, and I was rattling around in a house that suddenly had too many rooms. Owen was 22 when the divorce happened. June was 19. Old enough, I thought, to understand that this was between their mother and me. Old enough to make their own choices about who they wanted in their lives. I was wrong about that. Or at least I was wrong about how it would play out. Sylvia told them things. I do not know the exact words she used because neither of my children would repeat them to me, but the shape of it was clear. She told them I had been cold and distant for years. She told them I had chosen work over family. She told them she had sacrificed everything for me, and I had given nothing back. She told them, I found out later, that I had been unfaithful. That last part was not true. But truth does not always survive a divorce intact. Owen stopped returning my calls about 6 months after the papers were signed. June lasted a little longer, but by the end of 2021 she had gone quiet too. The last time I saw Owen in person, he was standing in the driveway of the old house while Sylvia's brother helped load his furniture into a truck. He shook my hand. That was it. A handshake from my own son, like we were acquaintances at a work function. I tried. I want to be clear about that. I drove to Chattanooga twice. The first time Sylvia answered the door and told me Owen was not home. The second time nobody answered at all. But I could see the lights on inside. I sent letters. I left voicemails that were never returned. I texted on birthdays and at Christmas and got nothing back. After a while I stopped because it started to feel like I was screaming into a hole in the ground. So when that call came on a Thursday morning and Dr. Sohal said my son's name, I did not hesitate. Whatever had happened between Owen and me, whatever Sylvia had told him, none of it mattered when it came to him lying in a hospital bed 4 hours away. The drive to Nashville took just over 3 hours. I pushed it. The cardiac unit at Vanderbilt is on the 5th floor. I gave Owen's name at the front desk and a nurse led me to his room. He was awake, sitting up slightly in the bed, monitors attached to his chest. He looked thinner than I remembered. There were shadows under his eyes that had not been there before. He looked at me for a long moment when I walked in. Then he said, "Dad," not a question, just the word. "Hey, son," I said. I pulled a chair up to the side of the bed and sat down. We did not hug. I do not think either of us knew how to do that yet, but he did not ask me to leave. That felt like enough. "What happened?" I asked. He told me he had been having chest pain for a few weeks, but had written it off as stress. He was 35 now, working in logistics management for a distribution company in Nashville. Long hours, bad food, not enough sleep. The pain got bad enough 2 days ago that his co-worker drove him to urgent care, who sent him directly to the ER. "They think it might be a hereditary thing," he said, "something with the arterial walls." "Dr. Mells, Sahal said she needed to talk to you about family medical history. That is why she called. That is why she called. Not because he asked for me. Because the doctor needed information." I let that settle for a second, then let it go. He was alive. He had not told them not to contact me. That was what mattered. Dr. Sahal came in about an hour later. She was a small woman with very direct eyes and the kind of manner that makes you feel like she has seen everything twice and still takes it seriously. She explained that Owen had a condition affecting the elasticity of the arterial walls, possibly genetic in origin. She wanted to know if there was any family history of early cardiac events on my side. "My father had a heart attack at 58, I told her. "His brother at 62. She nodded and wrote something down. "That is helpful," she said. "We may need to run a broader genetic panel. Some of what we are seeing is consistent with an inherited connective tissue disorder." She looked at Owen, then at me. "It would actually be useful to have your blood work as well, Mr. Hale, if you're willing, for comparison." "Whatever you need," I said. She left us alone again. We sat in a silence that was not quite comfortable, but not quite hostile either. The monitors beeped softly. Outside the window, the Nashville skyline was gray against a low winter sky. "Dad," Owen said finally. "Yeah, I know things have been bad between us. I know I haven't been fair to you. You do not have to do this right now." "I want to." He shifted in the bed, winced slightly. "Mom told me a lot of things after the divorce. I believed her. I wanted to believe her, I think, because it was easier than thinking the whole thing was just nobody's fault. I waited. She told me you cheated on her." He said it straight, looking at me. That was the big one. Everything else I could have worked through. But that one I couldn't get past. "I never cheated on your mother." Owen was quiet. "I'm not saying your mother is a liar across the board," I said. "I think she believed some of what she told you. People rewrite the past when they are in pain. But that part was not true." He turned toward the window. "She said there was a woman from your job. There were women from my job. I worked with women for 30 years. That is not the same thing." "I know that," he said quietly. "I think I always knew that, if I am being honest. But once you have decided something, it is hard to walk it back." "I understand that," I said. And I did. I was not angry sitting there in that room. I had been angry for a long time, years of it, but somewhere on that drive up I-40 I had burned through the last of it. What was left was just tired. And underneath the tired was something that felt almost like relief. My blood work came back the following day. Dr. Sohal met with us both in Owen's room, which I took as a good sign. If she was going to tell me I had 3 months to live, she probably would not have done it in front of my son. "The results were mostly what we expected," she said. "The family history of arterial issues is confirmed. Owen, we're going to recommend a medication protocol and some significant lifestyle changes. Mr. Hale, your numbers are actually reasonable for your age, but I would suggest a cardiology consult on your end as well, given the family history." She paused. There was something in her expression that I could not read. "There is one other thing," she said, "and I want to be straightforward with you both because I think you deserve that. The genetic panel we ran includes markers for familial traits. I want to make sure you understand what you are looking at before I show you the results. Owen looked at me. I looked at her. She set a printed report on the bedside tray. The genetic comparison shows no shared paternal markers between the two of you. She said it clearly and without softening it. Mr. Hale, you and Owen do not share a biological father-son relationship. He is not your biological son. The room went very quiet. I have been an electrician for 30 years. I know what it feels like when a circuit goes dead. The lights just stop. No spark, no warning, just nothing where something used to be. That is what it felt like for about 10 seconds. Then I said, "Run it again." "We ran it 3 times, she said gently. "I would not bring this to you on a single result." Owen had not moved. He was staring at the report like it was written in a language he did not recognize. "Is there a possibility of lab error?" I asked. Not because I really believed it, just because I needed to hear the answer. "The probability of error on 3 independent runs is essentially 0, she said. "I am so sorry." She left us alone. I sat down in the chair again, the same chair I had been sitting in all day, and I tried to put together what had just happened. 63 years old. I had raised a son for 35 years, coached his little league teams in Knoxville, sat through every school play he was ever in, driven him to college in my truck with a mattress strapped to the roof, and cried on the way home. I had worried about him and argued with him and been proud of him and missed him for 4 years, and none of that, not a single day of it, was connected to biology. "Dad," Owen said. The word hit differently now. I could not explain why. It should not have changed anything. It did not change anything, not really, but it was different knowing it was something he chose rather than something that was simply given. "I know this is a lot," he said. "That is one way to put it," I said. He almost laughed. Almost. We sat with it for a while. The monitors kept beeping. The city outside stayed grey. Eventually I asked the question I had to ask. "Does your mother know?" He was quiet for a moment. "I think she might," he said carefully. There were things she said over the years, things that never quite added up. I didn't put them together until right now. "You think she knew the whole time?" "I think," he said slowly, "that she might have been in the same situation as you. Not entirely sure. Hoping it would just stay buried. I did not say anything to that. I had a lot of thoughts about Sylvia in that moment, and none of them were worth speaking out loud." "I need to call her," Owen said. "I know. You should stay." I looked at him. "I want you here when I talk to her," he said. "I think I need you here." I stayed. He called her that evening from the hospital room. I sat in a corner chair and tried to make myself small, which is not easy when you are 6'1" and have spent your whole life taking up space in a room. Owen put it on speaker, I think because he wanted a witness, or maybe because he did not want to carry it alone. Sylvia answered on the second ring. Owen told her about the cardiac issue first, got through the medical part calmly. She was worried, asked the right questions, sounded like a mother. Then Owen said, "Mom, they ran a genetic panel." He paused. "Dad is not my biological father." The silence on the other end was not the silence of someone receiving shocking news. It was a different kind of silence. The silence of someone who has been waiting for something to arrive for a very long time and has finally heard the knock at the door. "Mom," Owen said. "I heard her exhale." "Owen," she said. "I am sorry." "Is it true?" "It is true," she said. Her voice was steady but flat, like she'd already rehearsed this in her head 100 times. "I was seeing someone before your father and I got married. It ended badly and I told myself it was over. And when I found out I was pregnant, I was already with your dad, and I just—" She stopped. "I told myself I was sure it was his. I needed to believe that. But you weren't sure." "No, I wasn't sure." Owen looked at me across the room. There was something in his face that I cannot fully describe. Not anger exactly. Something more like a door closing. "Who is he?" Owen asked. A man named Stuart, she said. Stuart Briggs. We were together for about 8 months. He moved to Portland before you were born. I have not spoken to him in 30 years. Does he know about me? No. Owen rubbed his eyes. Okay, he said. I need some time, Mum. Owen, I am so sorry. I love you. You know that. I know, he said. I love you. You know that. I know, he said. I'll call you later. He hung up. We sat in the silence she left behind. 30 years, I said finally, not with anger, just noting it. Yeah, Owen said. She let me think I was your father for 35 years. He looked at me. She let me think so too. And that was the thing. That was the part I kept coming back to in the days that followed. Owen had not only lost one understanding of his family that night, he had lost two. He had lost the version where his mother was fully honest with him. He had lost the version where his father, his real father, had simply been absent by choice. All of it came apart at once, and he was lying in a hospital bed when it happened. The hospital social worker came to see us the next morning. She was a young woman named Patricia, who had a gentle manner and a lot of experience with exactly this kind of situation, which told me more than I wanted to know about how often it happens. She helped Owen think through whether he wanted to reach out to Stuart Briggs. She gave him a list of services. She checked in on both of us. You okay? She asked me at one point, pulling me aside in the hallway. Honestly? No, I said. But I will be. That is usually how it goes, she said. The ones who say they're fine right away worry me more. I found that oddly comforting. I stayed in Nashville for 4 days. Slept at a Red Roof Inn 2 miles from the hospital, spent most of my time in Owen's room. We talked more in those 4 days than we had in the previous 4 years combined. About the divorce. About the years of silence. About what it had felt like from his side and what it had felt like from mine. He told me things I had not known. He told me that June had started questioning Sylvia's version of events about a year earlier. That June had tried to reach out to me twice and did not know why I had not responded. I thought about those voicemails I had stopped checking. I thought about the calls I had let go to the general spam folder because I was tired of being disappointed. I had a voicemail from June dated 14 months ago. I had never listened to it. I sat in the parking lot of the hospital that night and played it. She said, Dad, I know things have been weird. I know Mom said a lot of things. I've been thinking about it, and I don't think all of it was true. I miss you. Call me when you can. 14 months, sitting in my phone, I called her right there in the parking lot. It was 9 o'clock at night. She picked up on the 3rd ring. Dad? Her voice was careful, like she was not quite sure she believed it. Hey, Junebug, I said. I'm sorry it took me so long. She cried. I cried. We stayed on the phone for an hour and a half. I want to be accurate about the timeline of what came next. Because the details matter. And because I have seen the version where people skip the hard parts and jump to the reconciliation like it is a movie. And that is not how it actually went. Owen spent 2 more days in the hospital. He was discharged with a medication prescription, a cardiology follow-up appointment, and a referral to a therapist who specialized in family trauma, which was a phrase that would have embarrassed me a few years ago but no longer does. The doctor estimated that the cardiac issue caught early was manageable. He was not in danger. He was going to be okay. He hired a private researcher to locate Stuart Briggs in Portland. That took about 10 days. Stuart was 67 years old, had retired, had a daughter from a previous marriage and a second wife. Owen chose to send a letter rather than call. He told me later that he needed to be able to put it down and walk away if it got to be too much, and you cannot do that on a phone call. Stuart responded within a week. He wrote back that he had always wondered, that Sylvia had cut off contact suddenly, and he had never fully understood why. That he had thought about it over the years, especially when he looked at his daughter and thought about the timing. He said he was not trying to insert himself into Owen's life, but that he was willing to talk if Owen wanted to. Owen met him on a video call in February. I was not there for that. That was between them. Owen told me afterward that it had been strange and uncomfortable, and also somehow necessary. He said Stuart seemed like a decent enough person. He said he did not feel a sudden surge of connection, that it was more like meeting a distant relative at a funeral. Polite and real and a little sad. He told me something else too. He said that after the call ended, he sat in his apartment for a long time just thinking. And what he kept coming back to was not Stuart. It was me. It was the Little League games and the college truck and the 4 years of silence and the hospital room. He said, "Dad, biology does not tell me who showed up. You showed up, and then I took that away from you for 4 years because I believed a lie, and I am the one who has to live with that." I told him he did not have to live with anything, that he was 22 when the divorce happened and he was working with what he had been given, that his mother had complicated things in ways that were not his fault and not entirely hers either, that we were here now and that was enough. He said, "It is not enough for me. I owe you 4 years. I said, "You do not owe me anything. But if you want to spend some of those years fishing in my creek, I will accept that." He laughed. That was the first time I had heard him laugh in 4 years. It sounded exactly the same as it always had. The custody situation with Sylvia came up eventually, though there was no custody to fight over at this point. Owen was 35. June was 32. But there was the question of the lie, of the years it had cost us, of what accountability looked like for something like that. Owen and I talked about it. June and I talked about it. We did not hire lawyers. We did not go back to court. Owen did have a long conversation with Sylvia, 2 of them actually, and I was told they were hard conversations that left everyone exhausted and a little more honest than before. Sylvia did not offer a single excuse for the infidelity. She said she had been scared. She said she had made a decision and then kept making it for 35 years because unwinding it felt impossible. She said she was sorry. Owen told me she cried. I have no interest in punishing Sylvia. I want to be clear about that. Whatever she did, she is still Owen's mother and June's mother, and my children love her, and that is as it should be. What she took from me, from us, cannot be given back through a court judgment. The years are gone. What I have now is what is in front of me, and what is in front of me is enough. Owen drives up to Knoxville every 6 or 8 weeks now. We fish on Saturday mornings. He is not a natural fisherman, never has been, but he is patient and he likes the quiet, which is something I apparently passed on to him through 35 years of proximity rather than through any chromosome. June flew in from Denver in the spring, and we sat on the back porch and ate tomatoes from the garden and talked until midnight. She is getting married next year. She called to tell me before she posted anything on social media. She said she wanted me to hear it from her first. I keep a photograph on the mantel in the front room. It is from Owen's high school graduation, 2007. He is in the blue cap and gown, holding the diploma, squinting into the sun. I am standing next to him with my hand on his shoulder. We are both grinning like fools. I look at that photograph and I do not feel the ache I used to feel when I looked at pictures from before the divorce. I feel something closer to gratitude. Gratitude that we had those years. Gratitude that the truth came out when it did, instead of never. Gratitude that my son, the one who is not biologically mine in any technical sense, still calls me on Sunday evenings just to talk. He called last Sunday. Asked how the tomatoes were doing. Told me about a co-worker situation at the distribution center that had been giving him trouble. Asked if I had thought about getting a dog for the property, which I have thought about and probably will not do because I am 63 and dogs outlive their owners in the mathematics of this particular situation. I told him that. He said, "Dad, you are going to live to be 90. Get the dog." I said I would think about it. Here's what I know about being a father. It is not the biology. It is not the legal document or the name on the birth certificate or what some lab prints out on a sheet of paper. It is the Tuesday evenings you spend helping with homework that does not make sense to you either. It is the 2 a.m. phone call when the car breaks down on the interstate. It is showing up to the things that matter and the things that do not, and treating both like they are the same. It is staying when staying is the hardest thing. For 35 years I thought I was building something for my family. Then I lost 4 years of it to a lie. But the thing I built did not disappear. It was still there in 2 people who chose to come back to me when they were old enough to see clearly. Blood may tell you where someone came from. It does not tell you who they belong to. Owen belongs to me. June belongs to me. June belongs to me, not because of anything in their DNA, but because of 35 years of showing up, and because they chose to come back, and because some Sunday evenings when the phone rings I already know before I look at the screen that it is going to be my son calling to ask about the tomatoes. That is worth everything. That is worth more than I can say. So let me ask you something. If you have someone in your life who showed up for you, who chose you, who was there in the ways that mattered, when did you last tell them? When did you last call? Life is shorter than we think and quieter than we plan for, and the people who love us without obligation are the rarest thing there is. Do not wait 4 years. Do not wait at all. If this story meant something to you, I hope you will share it with someone who needs to hear it. Hit like if you are still here. And if you want more stories like this one, real people in impossible situations finding their way through, subscribe to the channel. New stories every week. Turn on the notification bell so you do not miss one. Thank you for staying until the end. It means more than you know. I have thought a lot about cause and effect since that Thursday morning. Not in any mystical sense. Just the plain, practical kind. The kind where you trace a line backward from where you ended up and see exactly how each decision, each silence, each lie, led to the next thing. Sylvia made a choice 35 years ago. She was scared and she buried it. That choice did not disappear. It lived inside our family the whole time, shaping things we could not see. It shaped the divorce. It shaped the story she told Owen and June about who I was. It shaped 4 years of silence that should never have happened. A buried thing does not die. It just waits. And I made choices too. After the letters stopped working and the voicemails went unreturned, I pulled back. I told myself I was protecting what was left of my dignity. What I was actually doing was making it easier for the silence to settle in permanently. I stopped checking my messages. I let June's voicemail sit for 14 months. 14 months. I think about that number more than I would like to admit. The thing about a long deception is that it does not only hurt the person it was directed at. Owen grew up believing something false about his own origin, his own identity. He spent his adult years carrying a version of his father, of me, that was built on a lie he did not know was a lie. When the truth came out in that hospital room, he did not just lose one false story. He lost 2. And he lost them at the same time, while he was hooked up to monitors and trying to figure out if his heart was going to keep working correctly. That is a heavy thing to ask a person to carry. What I have come to understand is that character is not what you do when things are easy. It is what you do in the gap between what happened to you and what you do next. Sylvia lived in that gap for 35 years and chose, again and again, to stay silent. I lived in my own gap for 4 years and chose, again and again, to stop reaching. Owen lived in his gap for longer than he should have had to, and when the moment came, he chose honesty. He called his mother on speaker in that hospital room because he needed a witness and because he was not willing to carry the weight alone anymore. That took more courage than most people will ever have to show. Tracing those lines backward, I can see now that Owen coming back was not luck. It was the result of 35 years of me showing up when I was present, and then him being honest with himself about what that meant when he was finally old enough to see clearly. Integrity compounds slowly, the same way a lie does. You build it year by year, Tuesday by Tuesday, and then one day your son is 35 years old in a hospital bed, and he still calls you dad and means it, and you understand that none of those ordinary years were wasted. June left a voicemail 14 months before I listened to it. She said she missed me. She had already started doing the work of finding her way back before I even knew she was looking. That tells me everything about who she is, and it tells me something about the years I put in before the divorce. 2. The years I spent actually being present, even imperfectly. Those years mattered. They held. I am 63 years old, and I know less than I thought I did at 40. But I know this. The truth has a way of finding the surface eventually, no matter how long it has been underwater, and the relationships you build honestly, with patience and presence and without keeping score, are the ones that survive when everything else falls apart. Owen calls on Sunday evenings. June is getting married next year, and she told me before she told anyone else. I grew tomatoes this summer and gave half of them away. It is enough. It is more than enough.